Hello, everyone. I'm here for one of my stories. This is Lindsay Dunn, and today we are back to talk about 1899, episode 5, The Calling. With me tonight is Anthony, aka Black Cinephile, for this discussion. Hello.
How's it going? How's it going?
Good. I'm excited to talk about this episode. A lot happened. It
Yeah,
was more we're over halfway through now, so things are starting to pick up plot wise. How did you feel overall about this episode?
I thought this was a great, fast-paced episode. I gotta say, out of all of them, this might be my favorite so far. And the number one reason, and we'll get to it soon, somebody finally says something. I mean,
Yes.
someone finally, and they're talking up a storm, and I was just smiling from ear to ear, like, "Oh, look at you!"
Yeah, if I don't know how to use sound effects yet in my podcasting, but we did, there would be some kind of like celebration air horn right now
Mhm.
because there was talking from the boy, which was very exciting. So that
For
was
sure.
it was unexpected, right? I mean, you thought
It
the day would
was.
never come?
I knew it would come. I just thought it would come like around the time that the show's second season got picked up by a new network, and they're like, "Okay, now we got to make the boys speak." It's a new season. We got to make the boys speak. I was like, all right, I might have to waste some time for this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I think I'm ready to dive in. Does that sound good to you?
I'm ready.
All right. Okay, so we start with our feature character being Maura. And in many ways, these scenes where we see her are a repeat of the very first scene of the whole season where we saw
Mm-hmm.
Maura. It's just that we see more of it and we see additional facts. But it happens a couple times right here at the beginning, and then halfway through, it's basically the same question. So those questions are like, where is my brother? And what have you done with him? We find out his name is Kieran this time. So we have a name for the brother. And what are you doing on these ships? And he found out what you were doing on the ships. So that Mara was our lead character, and we also saw there was a cross that she keeps visiting. So there's a dead body somehow involved with that. What did you have ideas about who might be in the grave marked by that cross? And what else do you want to say about Maura's scenes,
I'd say it's
her
either her
visions?
brother.
Yeah.
I think her baby might be under that cross. If I'm going to be honest, because didn't she have like a failed? She had a failed pregnancy, didn't she? Or she lost the baby or something
Right,
like
a
that.
miscarriage, or they maybe lost the child immediately after it was born.
It could either be that or it could be her brother. But when I first started this episode, and she opens her eyes, I'm expecting the wake up whisper, and I didn't get that. I said, okay, so we're going somewhere else now. Uh, you know, go over to she walks by the cross and then sees the words "wake up" on the cross. I
Mm-hmm.
go, okay, this is where she wakes up. And then we cut to the whole like sequence of where she's being carried away, the shots being put in her. I think she's waking up in whatever hospital she's in. This is my theory. My
Mm-hmm.
theory is this is all about her waking up in wherever she may be in present day or
Right.
whatever present day is in regards to this series. And she was given a shot and immediately put back on the cruise. And then we hear the classic voice of Maura going, "Wake up." Then
Mm-hmm.
she wakes up and finds out, oh, what's going on? That's kind of what I thought about it.
Yeah, we get the shot with the syringe several times. We see her hands are scarred from being put in restraints. So this must happen often, whether it's in the past or still in the present. There's this thing about her brother. There's a grave. There's a hospital in the distance. She later enters the hospital, but these are all parts of her past that are coming out. And I think we find out later that she says that her father she was a doctor at the hospital, but her father would try to trick her that she was a patient. So that's very Shutter Island of a plot point there.
Yeah.
But good opening. Of course, we want to know more about Maura. I was sort of hoping we might explore another one of our characters' backgrounds, but on the other hand, Anthony, we are running out of characters. By the end of the episode, we end up and then there were 10. I'm coming up with a number, but it's starting to become more and more apparent which characters are key players and which characters are disposable.
I almost thought for a second there we was going to go with Virginia and show Virginia's past, but that would have been interesting. But we got back to basics. It's no problem with me. Like I said, the plot. I want to say about 13 minutes in this boy, things go off the rails, and it's really good, like pacing wise. So I didn't really have much complaints about it. I went, okay, let's go back to business.
Mm-hmm. So when Maura wakes up in the ship world, she wakes up and there's Daniel next to her looking concerned, and she asks what happened to the boy, and it turns out he's back in his cabinet again.
See, I thought that was that was just so spot on. I started laughing, because I'm like, what would realistically happen in this situation? Oh, the boy's alive. Wait, the boy's alive. Put him back in there. I ain't taking no chances.
Yeah.
Put that boy back in there.
Yeah, we're sad that you died, but we don't necessarily like that you're alive. Right. That you hear the banging on the door, and he's banging. It's not like before. We've had before where the boy was inside a cabinet and he's kind of knocking gently with these 2 knocks, the double knocks or whatever. These were like loud knocks. So I was getting the feeling that perhaps he's tired of being in the cabinet. It's like, right. It's no longer sure, I'll behave. He's like, let me out of this thing for whatever reason. But Ike mentions they threw him off the railing. No one survives that. So, what are we supposed to think? And he's sort of using the boy as leverage to try to get, Maura to tell him more in that moment. Not necessarily the best time maybe to reveal stuff, just because she's surrounded by people where we can hear, but he's like, first tell me why your name is on the passenger list of the Prometheus. So down in the 3rd class, we have Franz trying to make a grandiose speech. He continues to try to maintain control of some kind. And, one thing that I'm not sure if we talked about in the last episode, but during, when the whole mutiny happened, Franz and his crew were kind of up on the bridge taking, they had the control room, and then all of the 1st class passengers got shunted down to the 3rd class. But during the fight, somehow Ike and that crew, retook control of the top deck, and now Franz and all them are down in the bottom deck. And he tries to make this speech to say, well, this is a good thing, because even though they have control upstairs, we have control of the boiler room and the coal. So I guess he was kind of trying to say, if they switch directions and turn around, all we do is shut off the coal and they can't go anywhere, So we're in charge of the machinery and the runnings of the ship. But then this character, Eugene, I guess, is probably, at least for us, it's Eugene. He mentions, well, the punishment for mutiny is death. So,
right.
Not so great after all. Iben tries to say, she says, justice is always on the side of the survivors. The light will always prevail. We're not going to surrender, even if it means more sacrifice. So Iben is continuing her campaign, trying both Franz and Ivan are in their own ways trying to show that.
I love that line.
Yeah.
Say more. I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I was gonna what did you say about sacrifice? Say that again.
We're not going to surrender, even if it means more sacrifice.
I love that. Like, that's such a telling line in this episode for what comes next. But I love how she specifically says that for what happens later in relation to her. But I remember just writing down my notes when, Ivan is like, the light will always prevail, and like the arrogance of like, we're on the right side of history on this ship, as if these people are so oblivious. Like this is literally how riots have started. This is how mutiny has started. There's a specific type of worldview or opinion that my side is right because I'm against the grain and things aren't right compared to how I feel. Like these are how these events happen in history. And I just love the way the show carries that out.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, she says we're not going to surrender even if it means more sacrifice. And of course, there's a pretty big sacrifice that ends up being made that maybe maybe she regrets later that she said that. Famous last words, right? When you say make a grandiose statement like that, and then it comes to bite you in the butt. Crester and Tove have a speech, even though we established the last episode that they were sort of, they were on opposite sides, and there didn't seem to be any kind of room to compromise. But Tove tries it again. She's loyal. She tries to like reach out to her brother and say, come on, do you really want these guys to win? Is this really who you want to be with? And I love how she says hearing voices isn't a sign of God, it's a sign of madness. She tried to say that part. We also, the other part that I noticed about this scene is that once again, Crester kind of goes on the defensive, and she mentions you helped her kill the boy, and he says, well, it's not like you haven't killed anyone. So instead of thinking about what she said, he sort of bites back, and you can tell that is he crossed the line. Yeah, he cuts deep, but it also crossed the line. It's probably one of those things that they had silently agreed they weren't going to talk about. He's not allowed to bring that up to her, but he brought it up, and you could see on her face that was a pretty big boundary that he had crossed by bringing up that incident that we don't know much about yet.
I just felt so sorry for him. He just looked so deflated. Like, I can tell that the boy's death really, the boy's supposed death from the last episode really weighed down on him.
I think it was a lot of stuff, right? I mean, the boy's death, even, he spat in Angel's face, but it wasn't like he enjoyed that. He was put in a situation that he felt he had to do, and he just had sort of a sense of hopelessness about him. And that's something I want to talk about a little bit later. But we also find out that the promise that he made was that they would run away together once they reached America. So the whole thing caps off with her picking up her rifle and saying, I'm going to do what I should have done a long time ago. What did you think she was going to do there?
I mean, I really thought she was going to go commando and just start, blowing bullets. Cause I was like, I don't know what's going through Tove's mind. I kind of should have I kind of should have used my writing brain. Go, no, be rational here. She's probably going to go over to the other side. But yeah, the way that line was written, the way that scene was shot, I'm like, well, what did you want to do?
Yeah. So, she was taking her rifle as a way for protection, I guess. But it was like something I'm going to do a long time ago. It's one of those, it's kind of a famous line where you go, what is she going to do?
Mm-hmm.
We had a scene here with Lucien and Clemens that was interesting, and I don't want to dwell on it too much. We can talk about it as much as you want, but it was just another one of the things that's frustrating for me about this couple is, and I mean one of the themes of the show, right, is communication and lack of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
whenever these two are talking, I feel like they're not talking with one another. They're kind of talking to each other.
Or rather, they're talking out loud. The other person just happens to be in the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's whole he says like or she says, were you even in love with me once? And he's like, he doesn't answer the question. Instead, he says, well, you just don't know what it's like to be me. And then she's like, well, was it all a lie? Right? It's just like, we're not going to actually communicate and try to come on the same page. We're just going to accuse the other person of being a dip.
Yeah, I think it's very self-pitying on his part. But I drew a parallel line between him and Crester, where Crester is immediately regretful of the things he's done that have just happened. I can tell that the Frenchman is he's not immediately regretful, but he has some self-pity and shame from what he did to I forgot the cast, Jérôme, and in his past, and his fraudulent past. The past has come back to haunt him. So I drew like a little bit of a parallel line between those two characters, where Crester gets more empathy. He would naturally get more empathy than Lucien.
Mm-hmm.
I still felt a little empathy for Lucien. I was like, yeah, this guy's he's a sad schmuck. I felt sad for him.
Mm-hmm. And Clemens's big thing is, well, did you love me at all? Was it a lie?
Right.
And he says, well, every day I wake up and I wish that I didn't, so it's a very strange, it goes back to, for me, that Lucien, he's in this life where he thinks, oh, I'll get away with it. But because of the guilt that he hasn't done anything about, he knows he's an imposter, so he can't fully enjoy that role. So the whole time he's probably had some level of resentment, thinking, well, Clemens probably only is with me because I'm this lieutenant and I have this money. So I'm not even who she thinks she is, which is a great commercial for not lying or trying to pretend like you're someone you're not when you get into a relationship. Because even though he tried to do it, it wasn't enjoyable.
Yeah, I was like, man, he's a schmuck. Let's move on. That's how I felt when I was watching it. I was like, he's a schmuck. She's she's stuck with the wrong man. That's just what that situation is.
Mm-hmm. I wish they would just make him a little bit more of an interesting character. But yeah, he's pretty. We talked about it. I said the word. I think I said pathetic, and you said, well, I don't think it's pathetic. I think he's something else. But yeah, just not somebody we necessarily want to hang out with too much.
Yeah.
So then we have Olek and the boys that come up to Ike and are basically like, so what do we do now? And Tove at this point comes in with her rifle. Now, I don't know about you, but I was thinking, all right, that's one strategy. You're coming in to say, I'm here as a friend, but yet you brought your rifle.
Right. It's like this is go time. You don't go to the other side with a rifle pointed saying, whoa, 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 I'm on your side. And that leads to a moment that happens not slightly after, where people shoot first and ask questions later. You did not, especially in a moment like this.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Tove comes in and everybody else is dealing with the fact that they saw this boy. She doesn't know that that he's a factor yet because he's in the cabinet. And so they're all kind of distracted with Tove now, like trying to figure out what she's there for. And Maura sort of tries to take the moment for granted where everybody's attention is focused somewhere else to go ahead and let the boy out. And this is when we got the Matrix moment, we could call it, or the freezing time moment. So I want to spend some time talking about this scene. So somebody points the rifle at Maura and shoots the rifle at her, and this is when we get Daniel, our man Daniel, ready to take a bullet for Maura.
Yep.
And then it's frozen. The bullet freezes. So I want to hear your thoughts about this scene and the way it played out and the way they did it.
I loved it. Because like I said, this is what happens at the height of riots. You know, people lose their resolve. They lose their rationality. And when Maura was like, I'm taking the boy out, you know, you could see the one guy that was trigger happy. Again, you shoot first, ask questions later. Boom. Now I knew Maura wasn't gonna get got. You know, she's the main character. But when time kind of froze, I went, oh, this is interesting. Because at first I thought it was Daniel who did it. As Daniel's like leaping in front, I thought he had probably like pulled some kind of switch to make time freeze. And I was like, whoa. And when she grabbed the bullet, I'm petty. So I thought she was going to grab the bullet and point it back at the guy that was shooting it so that when time goes back up and he shoots himself. That's just me being petty. But I thought that scene was pretty cool.
Yeah. So it kind of, that scene bothered me a little. I thought it was cool also. But one thing that bothered me is that Maura goes in to like grab that bullet. And I was thinking she's going to burn her fingers off. But they made it, you know, have you seen Tenet?
I have.
You know, that's the whole deal with, you see the bullet scene at the beginning when he's first learning how it all works. And they talk about inverted bullets and that it would be devastating to have an inverted bullet enter your skin, how hard that would be, because the whole, and when they're messing with the bullets in Tenet, this is still, you know, she never handles the bullets. She puts on the rubber, the neoprene gloves.
Right.
Because the bullet was still traveling in the air. It still had energy. So the fact that she was just able to touch, you know, this bullet and have nothing happen, that, you know, I was like, story-wise, that bothered me a little bit, but not enough that it ruined my thoughts about the whole episode.
I think if I'm going to look at it from a theoretical standpoint, she's in a time and space where things have slowed down, probably the same as like what would happen in normal gravity or in normal time. So it burning her fingers, it probably like, I don't know, it probably like stung it a bit, but not fully burned it because of the time and space she was in. I don't know. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I'm
not a physics major.
She just kind of picks it and drops it on the ground, basically. So it just bothered me to a certain level. I was like, that's not realistic. This team, this story writing team, tend to be so good with science. So it took me out of it just for a minute, but just for a moment. At this point, we see that the boy, more or less the boy out of the cabinet, and realizes he's the one that stopped time. With perhaps with the pyramid. What was your interpretation of how he did it? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I think we saw him turn it at one point in earlier episodes of the series. So I imagine just like another device we see later on with another character, probably did his magic with reworking it like it's a Rubik's Cube, and it has different functions and he has different powers with that device. So I figured he probably like turned in some kind of Rubik's code to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, Maura is just like us. She wants to know how he did it and who is he. So she's back to asking him questions. He's not answering anything and leads her off to show her something. The rest of the group unfreezes and they just see all they see is an empty cabinet. Mara's gone, the boy's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have everybody confused, and that's when those air sirens start up.
Right. And all
Creepy
hell
as
breaks loose.
yeah, creepy as all get out. Everybody's like trying to figure out what to do. It's chaos and confusion. Then the sirens start up and you feel their pain of being like, what now? You know, what else can happen?
Yep.
The boy and Maura are in the hallway and they pass on Hell, who isn't looking so good, and he tries to stop them. I was thinking he was probably maybe gonna ask where Ramiro was if she had seen him. But she just breezes past him. And we go back to the room and the Daniel and Ike are having this, I don't know, maybe part of the lovers triangle. Ike is like, what did you talk to Mara about? And Tobe actually is the one that intervenes and tries to get them to stop fighting. And she's basically like, you're the captain, so what do you want to do? And then Ike says, well, this isn't our only problem. We don't even have enough coal to make it all the way, and they've been at full speed. And Daniel is a stand-up guy and says he's right. So we need to take the ship back over. The air sirens stop, and that's when we have the ticking noise that starts.
Yeah.
So anything you want to say about any of that, all those interactions? It was a lot of stuff happening in very quick succession.
I don't have much to say about that. You pretty much laid it out. There was a little tiff between Daniel and Ike about Ike wondering, okay, who is this guy? Would you and Maura talk about? I need answers. What's going on here? I can only imagine what's happening in Ike's mind right now. Like the one woman he's kind of sort of confided in this whole time is becoming more and more enigmatic by the moment. And his mind is just kind of frazzled.
Right. And everybody's looking to him for answers and to be the calm one. And we have to remember that before, in the first couple episodes, Ike was really sort of, he was the vision of calm and peace. He came out, he seemed like very in control. But through all of these events and everything that's happened, he's become more and more unfurled. He hasn't really had a moment to take stock of things or come up with a good plan. And now everybody is looking to him for answers. And then there's this Daniel guy, and yeah, so with the ticking noise, all of these characters just began moving towards the water and jumping off of the boat. And it takes a while to get there, but it's very atmospheric and well done. They basically become, I don't know, what would you call
Zombies.
them? Zombies.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, about the ticking itself before we get to any details about the characters. What did you think about the ticking? I thought I had alluded to before, we would talk about it later. I was thinking that the people, there's several ways you can interpret it, but one of them is that the people who go to jump they've run out of hope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we had characters like Crester and um and Yuck and the different characters that decide to go. There's been a lot of stuff that happened. They're locked in their rooms. They don't get to decide where they're going anymore. And we see that later Jérôme says he thinks it's catching.
Right.
You can be okay and not susceptible to ticking, but it could something that's contagious, basically. And I was thinking that the ticking is the people who are susceptible are like out of hope. So what did you have any thoughts about what happens with the ticking?
So first, I thought at first I thought it was like a non-diegetic piece of the score. Like I thought it was something only we could hear. But then I was like, oh, they hear the ticking too. And then that's when I saw the people marching. I mean, the loss of hope is a cool theory, but then Lucien would have joined too. Because that dude's kind of been without hope. You know, like I said, he's a schmuck. Like he's always walked around a self-pitying. What's that line from The Sopranos? Uncle Junior says, you're like the starving woman with the ham under her arm saying, "Where's the bread?" You know, like so like I figured Lucien would have joined them, but you know, I looked at it as okay, these characters, it's their time to restart, so to speak. Because I think I hear something about a character saying, I don't think they're dead. I don't know if Maura or another character says that later on. Yeah. So I think this is their time to kind of restart a little bit, like their functions in this story. Because I'm looking at all this as a story. And, you know, as we talk more about some things that I reveal later on in the episode, I look at it as, okay, these characters have kind of fulfilled their purpose. Time to go back to the motherland to get primed to restart. That's how I looked at it from a sci-fi perspective.
Yeah, that's an interesting theory too. I do think, you know, we see Jérôme comes in to basically tie up Lucien and Clemens, and also Lucien is in the room instead of in the hallway. So I don't know if it makes a difference, but yeah, that's your role's been fulfilled. That certainly ties into like the video game theory we've been talking about all along. It's like your character's done now. We don't need you anymore. Thank you. But if they're resetting, and I think they even say that later that she says they're not, Maura says they're possibly not dead. But yeah, then where do they go? Once they jump in the water, where do they go? Do they go on the other ship? Like, now we're going on the Kerberos. Now we're going on the Prometheus. I don't know. Maybe they just go back and forth between the two ships.
So they may get back on the Kerberos in a different dimension or in a different I want to say world, so to speak, or there may be a path that they've been primed to take, that when the boy went to the ocean or got pushed off the boat into the cruise or got pushed off the boat into the water, he chose a different path to circle back around. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out what happened. Maybe that'll be like the opening scene of the next episode.
Or it could be just another cliffhanger where they leave us stranded.
Could be.
Okay, so then we have all these bodies are jumping, Crester, Yuck, and we can see Landon, the garlic man, thing number 1 in the boiler room. That was kind of sad because he's our comic relief, right? The comic relief has left the ship. And Anker sees his son jump off the ship, which is very sad. We have Sebastian back down with the red buttons again, with the red button panel, pressing the different triangles, and he just kind of looks at all the bodies jumping, and he's like, walks away.
It's another day in the office. Just another day.
That is kind of his vision. He's just like, all right, Um, the boy and Maura have a scene where this is when he speaks, right? So you want to
Mm-hmm.
you want to talk about the boy speaking
And
this time?
when this happened, and Maura said to him, like, all right, now look, you're gonna have to give me something. I don't know where we're going, what's going on here. He whispers, they are listening. I clap my hands, like, finally, all right. If that's all he ever says, I'm okay with that. Then he goes, I can't tell you. She said something to him about, like, what's going on, or what is this? I can't tell you. You have to ask the creator. I said, oh, he's talking now. Like, this guy's gonna give some real dialogue here. Yeah, that was a great moment to me. That's what
Yeah.
made this my favorite episode.
Even though you're wondering, why didn't he just write that note before? I can't.
Right.
He was deciding if he could trust Maura. Um, we'll just say that. But you must ask the creator. But it's in a British accent. You must ask the creator.
Hmm.
So then the two teams meet. The two teams being Franz and the mutineers and Ike and company. I thought this was interesting because they all are like, you put down your rivals, no you. But then when they realize what's happening and all of the, people are jumping and killing themselves basically,
Mm-hmm.
they all kind of join forces to try to stop the people from moving. That's their strategy. It's we're just gonna all grab onto you. It's sort of like when you see there's a greater enemy than the one in front of you, you join forces to do something together.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a neat moment because Jérôme and Franz were next to each other, trying to hold back the crowd.
Right.
Like, yeah, France and Germany working together for once.
No, I didn't think of that. That's funny.
um so Maura goes down into her vision. She follows the boy. He shows her the beetle and what it can do. Goes down into the black submarine tile. She's been down in these panels before with Ike, but this time she goes down with the boy and he shows her the beetle and how it can open up these portals or hanging windows
Such a great
into
scene.
her dreams. Yes, this was beautifully shot. The thing opens up. Maura is climbing through this, looks like a cube, whatever you would call a shaft that's in a cube shape. And she's just crawling through, and you can see her image reflected off of the sides, and it made a really interesting design. And there was, of course, the really drony ambient music playing, really mysterious music. And she comes out into the dream that she had. So that was a pretty, like, needle drop scene right there. I thought that was really,
Yeah, I liked it.
it's basically her vision before. So then Daniel comes in and curses. He's like, ah.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, the door closes up after them, but he doesn't need a beetle. Apparently, he can use his little slidey buttons machine to make anything happen. Yeah, he kind of turns the boy around and is giving him a little lecture. You shouldn't have done that. He says a lot of weird things here. You shouldn't have done that. It knows we're here now. I wondered who it was. And the boy says, we've never made it this far. Maybe it will work this time. So later, Daniel says, he talks about he says, he won't find you. So he made a little more sense, maybe being Maura's father, but I didn't know about it knows we are here now. That part I was really confused about.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was either.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where we might have to wait and see what's about to happen.
Mm-hmm. So Daniel leaves him there and says, basically, you should stay here, and I need to stop this before they sink the ship. I need you to stay here for a while. He won't find you. So the boy gets left in Maura's vision. We next go to Ramiro. This ticking noises happen. People are dying. Ramiro thinks of Angel and wants to make sure he's okay. So he runs to his room, and there's the little song that Angel is singing. So I was curious about this song, of course. The song is called La Tarara, and it's by a composer, Federico Garcia Lorca. This is a song that is often considered a children's song. It's about a crazed woman who dances wildly and people laugh at her. So she's sort of a town nutcase. And part of the problem is she's wearing the wrong colors for the day or the tradition that's going on. But everybody, kind of enjoys her dancing. And it says that the Tarara has a wounded little finger that no surgeon could cure. So it's just that it was just another one of those little interesting factoids that this song is sort of about being different, being out of step with the rest of people, and that the protagonist of the song defies social norms. And the songwriter, actually, I found out he is gay also. So the song was written in the early 1900s. So yeah, it was, it's one of those things that, like, Angel is singing this song and he knows it. Why is this the song that he's singing? It could just be like, oh, this is a song that he's known since he was young. But it was an interesting one of those little reveals that maybe says something about his character.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because right here, Angel's obviously a little bit, he's distraught, which could go back into the lack of hope thing. He's basically locked himself in his room and put furniture in front of his door so that he can't get out. And he's really not looking so good. He was looking a little mentally unstable himself, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
We have a lot of tying up now. Jérôme ties up Lucien, Clemens himself, the Danish family all begin to tie themselves up along with Franz. Ivan, they make sure they tie up Ivan first because I guess she was in danger, and then Ling and Olek are together and they tie themselves up. So all of the couples and loved ones are together here and trying to help each other.
Yeah, I thought that was you talked about it earlier, but I liked how the plot shifts in this episode. I like how we're going from one place to the next with following around Maura, seeing what she's doing, and then looking at other people, tying themselves up, going like, okay, let's try to fight this thing. It feels like about to make another Christopher Nolan reference. So it's like it's like that moment in Inception where there are like 3 different plot lines going on. The car is still falling through the air. They're walking up this snowy mountain to get deeper inside Cillian Murphy's brain. And, Elliot Page is trying to save Leo from his wife. Like, it's like 3 different plots going on. Like, well, it's 2 different plots going on, but I like that. I like how the plot is working.
Right. It's definitely, there's layers to it. And it did make me wonder, though, that can you tie, Jérôme ties himself up, obviously. But I guess you're sort of, because you become a zombie, it's not like you can want to, once you're tied up, you can't move. So I guess that's the idea. But it was like, well, how does tying up help? If you're a zombie, you still want to eat, you know what I mean? Once you become a zombie, you still want to eat people. So I wondered if you could actually hold yourself back from moving if you tie yourself up good enough. But
right.
That's a little bit different than your point, but I wonder, that was what I got stuck on. I was like, how can you keep yourself from jumping? I understand tying someone else up, but how do you make sure you tie yourself up good enough for that? Wilhelm is getting,
I mean, you just got
go ahead, sorry.
No, I was gonna say you just gotta trust yourself, but yeah.
Wilhelm is getting messages in the telegraph, and the message is sink ship.
Right.
So that's interesting. Just because this is what you're supposed to do before and you didn't do it again. So that was unfortunate. We have Daniel at the panels trying to get the ticking noise to stop. And he has a battle with thing number 2, who basically tries to knock him out with a shovel. He gets hit twice. Pretty good.
I like how that joke early on when they were talking about wolves and vampires, it pays off in this scene. He's like, you're a wolf. Yeah, you're not gonna come for me. My frame was right.
Yeah, Landon was right.
That was so funny.
So Maura has come out of her panel at some point. I guess she did another wake up, and Maura and Ike meet. And this is the part where Maura is like, Ike, I've been looking for you. And he's like, he grabs her and throws her against the wall and says, tell me now,
Right. You think it's gonna be like a lovers reunion. He's like, nah, mama. You got some things to answer. You got some explaining to do, as they would say on I Love Lucy. Ain't no reunion here.
So finally, Maura and Ike share everything. I feel like that they were very open with each other, and Maura admits that she doesn't remember being on the Prometheus, but she recognizes that her name is on the ship, that she doesn't remember it though. And he shares that something I didn't tell you was I was the captain, apparently. And shows her that. So both of them have some, they could both be like, you have some explaining to do. Well, you have some explaining to do. It's like the Spider-Man meme. But they both finally share that, feel safe enough with each other. We also find out that Maura's nickname is Henrietta. Sure, that her brother named her Henrietta as a way to pick on her because he felt like she was too much like their father. And she mentions that 4 months ago, her brother contacted her. He wanted to meet at the docks in Southampton, and he said he found out something about the father, that she went, but he never showed up. And then she learns that one day earlier, the Prometheus had left on the same dock, that he's been missing for 4 months, same length of time as the Prometheus. So she suspects that her brother was on the Prometheus, I suppose. So yeah, and she shows him the beetle. She shows him how to get into the portals. And I thought this was interesting that, you know, it wasn't, when you were in Ike's room, if you go down to his panel, you get into Ike's vision, right? If you're in Maura's room and go in her panel,
well, that was pretty cool.
You go into Maura's vision. Yeah. So I had a theory about Maura I wanted to share with you.
Okay.
Now, we may not get a chance to explore all of our theories fully because the show, has been canceled. But one theory that came to my mind is when she says that her brother called her Henrietta because she was too much like her father. She later shares with him that she thinks that he is doing experiments on the people, that they are not really dying, that he's studying human behavior, and that these ships are experiments to do that. Now, if Maura is like her father, is it possible that Maura is the mastermind?
The mastermind behind everything happening, or what do you mean?
Yeah, like if she's so much like her father, does she also study human behavior? Does she also, this whole time?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We're led to believe that probably the evil dude is the father, and we see him at the end. We see the father, but is it possible that she's working with him and not, that we're sort of blinded to the fact that she's in on it?
It's definitely worth considering. I believe that maybe she told her father, "Hey, always keep me sedated so I can figure out what's going on, so I can see how this experiment goes. Don't believe whatever I say to you about letting me go and all this. Always keep me sedated." I could picture her having that conversation with her father and embarking on this experiment with him. It's possible. I don't think that's what's going on, but go ahead.
I know. Well, I knew you wouldn't maybe be totally in favor with this theory because you like Maura. She's like one of your favorite characters. But there's also the fact that Maura says, "Wake up." She's the one that says, "Wake up." So, the only other person we saw say "wake up" was Maura's father in her episode. So I don't know. It was kind of like, why is Maura saying "wake up"? It's not like the doctor's saying, her father's not saying "wake up." But we also know she was a doctor that might, thought they were led to believe they were a patient. So it just made me think Maura could have more. You could have because of the way her father raised her, maybe she has these tendencies to want to do experiments on people.
It could be.
I don't think she's malicious. It just be an interesting reveal at the end. It's like, yes. She's like, "Oh, you underestimated me." So Daniel finally gets the ticking to stop. He looks very exhausted, very tired after doing that. everybody, because once the ticking stops, everybody sort of comes to. We have Angel regains consciousness again and is grateful to see Ramiro. The Danish family all get consciousness, and Ivan finally has to come to, she's now has to come to terms with that her son is dead, which is very sad. And she mourns. They all are mourning at that moment. I thought that was, it was realistically done, because sometimes when a disaster happens, you're so occupied with those other things that you sort of delay your own mourning. In this case, it was a science fiction plot point that we have this, you're going to become a zombie for a little bit, but they sort of have to wake up and finally be like, our son is dead.
Yeah. I thought that was realistically done too, because the whole time she's just like shaking, and she's barely moving. She didn't accept Chrysler for who he was, and I know that kind of hurt her deep because of her own, religious moral convictions that she held over her son. And she goes in the end. She goes, they go, oh, it's over. She goes, Chrysler, like she says it with a question mark, and you think her son's like, oh, her son's back now, he's alive, but it's a very sad moment.
Yeah. And I believe she says, my son, my son. And whereas before she was like, I wish you were dead instead of Ada. That we see she didn't really mean that, because she's genuinely sad about, Chrysler's fate. So, I think you talked in the last episode, Anthony, you mentioned there could be a come to Jesus moment, but we had talked about maybe the come to Jesus moment would be that she saw the boy was alive. That does not happen in this episode, but she still has to kind of contend with the fact that she was not a very nice mother to him at the end,
right?
At this moment. Okay, now we're towards the end of the episode here, and you already mentioned Virginia, where she's standing. I guess she was about ready to jump. Is that how you took that she was standing on the balcony?
I didn't know how to take that, really. I didn't know what Virginia was doing. I looked at it as she maybe was looking at the waves, like what just happened and how should I move forward? How does this affect my business? Like how I feel like she still was within her hustler mindset, but she was trying to discover, like, okay, where do I go from here? This tragedy that just happened. I don't know if she was sad about it, but I think it might have put a dent in some of her plans.
Yeah, she mentions that she had the strangest dream, and she almost looks, I mean, Virginia she is an attractive woman. She's not unattractive, but the way that she looks right now, she looks this is the most innocent we've seen her look, the most kind of vulnerable and childlike. So she has sort of a very pure face about her in this moment. And she says she just woke up from the strangest dream. And then we see the people that are left, which isn't very much. We have Angel and Ramiro, we have Ike and Maura, Daniel, Lucien, Clements, and Jérôme, Sebastian, and Tove, Crester, Ivan, and Anker. So I believe that's all that's left. Those are the parties that are left. So then Sebastian comes out, and nobody likes him anymore. He's on everybody's shit list, but he has the orders to sink the ship. And this is when they play the ending song, which in this case is The Wizard by Black Sabbath. What?
No, I mean, I love how they made that as a mic drop moment. And when he goes, the note says sink ship. And I don't know if it's Ike or somebody, but somebody says, I don't think they're talking about the Prometheus. I think they're talking about us.
Right.
I'm like, no duh, Sherlock. Like I know we as the audience know what they mean by this point, but I know the characters are just coming to terms with this, but I'm like, you're really gonna come to that realization after everybody just walked off to their death that, oh wait, they mean to sink us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't. I sort of had to have that spelled out for me because you are like sink ship. What sink what ship? Well, there's only one ship left. It's it's this one.
Oh, okay. Well, no,
Um,
I'm saying that because, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was saying that because initially, when they got the sink ship message, okay, they're near the Prometheus. Now they're not near the Prometheus anymore. We know somewhat that this triangle company that sends messages is connected to Maura's father, so he obviously knows everything that's going on and knows that they're not near that ship anymore. So when they hear sink ship this time, in my mind, I'm going, oh, okay, it means sink that ship. But then they come to the realization, like, my God, they mean us. Like, I'm like, I don't know. That might have been just me.
So then we think that's the cliffhanger, but then we shift over
Right.
to this second cliffhanger, which is this very 1970s looking living room. Um, and Maura's dad at the desk, we just received an alert from Project Kerberos. And I got a good look at this note. It was kind of funny. It said, Project Kerberos protocol, initialized protocol 8672230. And, there's just a bunch of triangles, of course. And it looks like that, what did you, Scantrons? I don't know. Like before you had electric typewriters, I guess. I was just like, what is this printed on? What is this font? Um,
Right.
Tell him he doesn't have much more time. He needs to bring me the boy. And then we have the wizard himself looking out the
Mm.
window, and we see the large black pyramid. What do you think about our ending this time?
It left me. It definitely was a cliffhanger. I was expecting to see the TV screens. Like I was
Mm,
expecting her father to be watching them on TV, and I would have been like, "Oh, that's a nice cliffhanger, bringing everything back full circle." But yeah, they just keep throwing haymakers at us. I don't know what that triangle is. Like, is there like a sound stage where all their bodies are, and they're living out this ship experience in there? I want to know what's in that.
mm-hmm.
And can I
Obviously,
say,
yeah.
that one guy that was talking to him, the bald headed dude with the mustache, he looked like a beefed up Bryan Cranston. Was that just me? He looked
I
like
was
a beefed up muscle Bryan Cranston.
I was trying to figure out who he looked like. He definitely reminded me of somebody, but I couldn't think of who it was. And I meant to go back to IMDb and look up, who that actor was. Um, but yeah, it was so yeah, I was hoping to see the TVs too, and I'm like, are they in a wall in that room? But boy, you can tell that this is by the same people with dark with this, grayed out, this gray color panel in this living room and just the way the set piece is with the big curtain over the window, very lavish, you know, I guess living room or great room, whatever you want to call it. Um, So yeah, I mean, as far as next episode or what's coming, but the only questions I have at this point are I'm wondering why the boy always holds the pyramid. Anywhere he is, he insists on carrying the pyramid. He needs that with him. You mentioned that might be what stops time or what freezes time. So I kind of want to know more about the small pyramid he's holding. Curious if Mara is in on it and the ticking noise. What happens when the ticking starts? And so those are kind of my big question marks right now. What about you?
I'd like to know how Daniel and the boy know each other and how they're related to Maura. This whole time, I'm thinking Daniel is Maura's brother, and he might still be. So that's my main question. I want to know their relation to each other and to Maura. I want to know if Maura has any more secrets up her sleeve, or if she's hiding anything else from Ike. I want to know what's in the Black Triangle, and that's really my questions right now. I'm kind of still along for the ride to see what other surprises they're going to throw at us, but it is kind of bittersweet watching all this, knowing that the second season is up in the air right now.
Mm-hmm. I heard a rumor that somebody mentioned that that Baran, Baran. I'm Baran Baran Odar, that he likes graphic novels. So somebody was speculating that even if he can't finish the story as a TV series, he could always publish it as a graphic novel, different format.
Hey, I support it.
Yeah, any formats. Yeah, I was saying, give me fan fiction. I want to know where the story goes, like, after, we still have 3 more episodes, so I don't doubt there will be some good things in there. But yeah, we know the story is not going to be concluded.
Yeah, I'm a little wary of fan fiction. I'm just wary of it. But I do like how I think Josh Whedon had continued the Buffy the Vampire Slayer story past where the original series ended in graphic novel format. I think Avatar, The Last Airbender creators did that too with comic books. So it's definitely doable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'd read it. I'm a graphic novel type of guy, as you see behind me.
Yeah.
Top shelf.
Well, I'm using fan fiction as a catch-all term just to mean they could publish it as a book online. I'm just saying it doesn't need to be a book that you buy in a bookstore. Like, if it's not something they want to spend a lot of money on. I just meant publishing online cheaply, but I'm imagining, I guess what I'm thinking is, no matter what, we will probably get people who want the story to continue too, that will post things and put things out there. So are we ready to close, or did you have any other last minute things you wanted to discuss with this episode?
Look, I mean, the best episode of the series so far, the boy talked, and we had a great chilling zombie sequence. I mean, what else could you ask for?
It is a pretty good episode. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it was definitely a good good, lots of action, character intrigue, suspense, all the things you could want from sort of a sci-fi mystery. So tell us about your channels and any special projects you have coming up.
Yeah, you can find my work at Double Feature Versus the podcast. We also have a YouTube channel. The YouTube videos I'm taking a bit more time to edit those right now due to personal things I'm dealing with right now. But you can still find our most updated episode in podcast format. We just compared Rian Johnson's Glass Onion against The Last of Sheila, which was a film that inspired Glass Onion. We put those two together, compared them, see which one won out in the whole little cinematic battle we did. That was a fun episode. And I honestly did not know Last of Sheila was that good. Like, I never saw that movie. And we watched it for that episode. And yeah, great 70s film, man.
So it came out in the 70s?
1973.
Mm-hmm.
Written by... Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, who's in it, and
A very young Ian McShane from Deadwood is in it. You probably wouldn't recognize him on first glance, but you got to double take and go, "Oh, man, that's Ian McShane." I think that's the actor's name. And James Coburn is in it. And it's get this, it's written by Anthony Perkins from Psycho and Stephen Sondheim. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah. Okay. Hadn't heard of it before.
I didn't either until we looked in the Glass Onion and looked up the films that inspired Rian Johnson to create the whole Benoit Blanc character. You know, besides Murder, She Wrote and Agatha Christie and, you know.
Yeah. Okay, well, you can find me on Twitter, Letterboxd, YouTube, SoundCloud, and at one of my stories, and also oneofmystories.com. Coming up, I will be on doing a top 5 Hitchcock episode with 2 peas on a pod. So look for that. I will be doing a M. Night Shyamalan discussion the week before Knock at the Cabin coming up. So that is kind of what is on deck for me right now. And of course, just continuing to spit out the 1899 content. So if you're into that, please follow me on my channels. On the podcast, guys, if you do listen to my podcast, One of My Stories, I would love for you to not just listen, but subscribe, because if I get enough subscriptions on there, I can have more leverage to apply for film festivals and stuff I want to do. You need numbers for that kind of stuff. And, you know, right. I know Anthony will agree with me. You know, please listen and tune in, but also subscribe to our channels if you like what we do, because that does help a whole lot. So we are signing off for this episode. Next episode will be episode 6, which is called The Pyramid. So look for that coming out in 2 weeks, and we'll see you guys then. Bye.
Bye.